Welcome to Small Practice Support Information Session number 48. In this Law Society of Ireland recording, Oliver O'Shea talks to Justin Purcell about the benefits of document assembly technology.
Right. First of all, I'm here to talk about document assembly technology. And essentially, what is it? It's simply the way you draft a document. And the first thing I do is just talk about, based on my own experience of talking to solicitors, how you do things at the moment. From what I understand, the vast majority of solicitors, particularly in smaller practices, they're probably using what they call a precedent bank of Word documents. And we call them dumb Word documents. These are static, flat file documents. There's typically a single version. And when a client comes along with the matter, you take out your Word document, and the more complex the situation, the more manual editing that's required. It requires a lot of copying and pasting to create a new version. You can do all sorts of things with a Word document, but it's very easy to compromise it. You can cut things out that you don't intend to cut out. You can paste things in that you don't intend to paste in. So basically, it requires a high proofreading overhead. It really is recommended that it's proofread from top to bottom when you edit these documents to make sure that it reflects what you want it to reflect, and nothing more and nothing less. It's also the case that it requires a high level of experience to determine the level of editing required. So that's basically what the way people work at the moment. Can you move me on to the next slide? Right. So to compare that then with what we call document assembly, we use the word or the verb assembly because we're basically pulling a document together from a legal clause database. We refer to dynamic intelligent drafting processes, which is a bit of a mouthful. It's to try and get across all of the aspects of the technology. We also use the word smart, which I think is generally well understood nowadays. So it's a question and answer process. For example, in Law Online, which I'll be referring to as we go along, it's the only example of this type of technology that serves the Ireland jurisdiction. We have it's a Q&A process, so you answer our questions on the left-hand side of the screen, and you will see the document basically jumping around on the right-hand panel as clauses are added, and as the document is assembled, is the verb that I'm using. Because you're in a very formal process, there's a reduced risk of error. For example, whereas a human being could forget to address a particular issue or ask a particular question, software will never forget to ask a question. So you're in this formal process that you have to go through question by question. And it means that you're going to cover all of the angles when you go from A to Z. Also, the process can basically generate unlimited versions of any particular document, from the simple to the more complex. And just very quickly to give you an example, let's take a will. In a lot of cases, if you have a married couple, one spouse will leave everything to another spouse, which is a very simple will. Then you may have somebody else that might come along with much more complex needs, such as they might have children, they want multiple executors, substitute executors, guardians for the children, burial wishes, they may have pets they want looked after, they may want to make gifts, specific gifts, monetary gifts, there may be trusts involved. So it's much more complex, but the point is that it's the same drafting process that can handle both scenarios. So you can draft a very simple will, obviously much more quickly, or you can draft a much more complex will using the same drafting process. Whereas if you were using precedents, word precedents, you probably would have a precedent for simple wills and a different precedent for more complex wills. Also, you're in a very secure setting, so the content can't be compromised. So the proofreading is limited once you are continually using a platform such as ours. What you really have to be concerned about is the information that you actually enter. You don't really need to proofread the document from top to bottom every time. You only need to check, obviously, the information that you provide in answer to the questions. Clearly, it's substantially faster, and I'll be showing you evidence of that later. And then very important in a small practice, because potentially there's only one qualified practitioner in the practice quite often, or maybe two. Less experienced staff can produce very competent first or even final drafts of a document on this type of using this type of software. Of course, it's always advisable that the qualified principal, would sign off any document that is drafted. But certainly, less experienced staff can easily use this type of drafting process. So next slide, please. So just in terms of very quickly, the elements of document assembly technology, it's a dynamic question and answer process, as I've said. There's a type of machine learning involved here. Questions can be added, they can be changed, they can be removed, as you go through the process and as you answer questions. Things will change as you go along, depending on the answers that you give. Embedded in the coding itself is sophisticated if-then logic, which is used to manipulate the content of a document. There's looping and iteration available, which allows you to add endless lists of items if you wish, or endless lists of clauses. Computation of dates, numbers and text can be manipulated. For example, all of the arithmetic calculations can be performed automatically. The consistency of numbers can be compared across a document, and so on and so forth. You also don't have to worry about formatting. The numbering and of the clauses is all handled automatically for you. So if clauses are added in, or subclauses, or clauses are taken out, the numbering of the document adjusts automatically. So that is something you don't have to worry about. Then there's validation that's always possible to prevent people from making mistakes. And within online, we have 5 levels of validation, everything from a warning to say, look, you're about to do something maybe that has consequences. We just want to warn you, but we're going to allow you to continue, to something that is more serious and we can't allow you to continue when we stop you. For example, if you're drafting a will and you had neglected to give your spouse their legal right share in the will, we would warn you that you've done that and there are consequences, but we would also allow you to continue. That'll be one example. A serious error, and to give you a very simple example, would be where you need to be 18 years of age to be party to a document. When we ask you your age, if you say you're under 18, we will stop you and say you can't continue. That being a pretty simple example. And then finally, this service is web enabled, so any device with a web browser allows you to connect to the service. So you can draft documents on a desktop, a laptop, a tablet. You can also do it on a mobile, but it's very difficult on a mobile. Okay, but that's it. Yeah, thanks. On to the next slide. Here I've tried to just categorize the type of content that you would typically find. So for example, it would go from fillable PDFs, where a PDF, the content is totally prescribed, but you can still speed up the completion of the document. We've only got 2 examples on Law Online, which is the Form A1 from the Companies Office, and we have Bill and Revenue Affidavit, which I'm aware has now been automated by the Revenue Commissioners themselves, but that document is still on our platform, should it ever be required. Then you have prescribed content, where you're dealing with largely court forms, where there's a certain prescribed amount of detail that has to be on the document, and then beyond that, it's customized for whatever matter or case that you're dealing with. And the 2 examples I give here would be claim notice in the district court and an enduring power of attorney, which I will be using as an example later. Hopefully we might be able to get onto Law Online to show you a live example. I'm not sure if we can do that, but anyway, those are 2 examples. And then finally, we have what I call, for the want of a better word, crafted content. These are documents which are drafted from scratch by people, by lawyers who've got expertise in the area that the document addresses. And again, examples of that would be an employment contract or a shareholders agreement. And obviously, the quality of those contracts is as good as the skill and experience of the lawyer that has put together the legal engine of clauses that we use to assemble those particular types of documents. All right, Justin. Just very quickly, I won't spend too long on this. This was a survey done maybe 5 or 6 years ago in the UK, just to compare how fast it would be to draft a document in the old-fashioned way of amending or editing a flat, dumb Word document with doing the same on a document assembly platform. And as you can see, the results are pretty impressive. That was carried out for a comprehensive will, an employment contract, and a lasting, or what we call an enduring power of attorney. And you can see the time savings there for yourself. Right, Justin? Here, I've just given an example of the personal and business law areas that are typically addressed by document assembly, document drafting platforms. I mean, as it happens, these are the law areas that we cover on Law Online. So you can, again, read those for yourselves. They cover both personal and business law. Right. Now, I'd intended to give you a demo by switching over to the Law Online platform at this point. But anyway, let's see what happens. The document that I've chosen is an enduring power of attorney, which I hope will be relevant to most people who are listening. And again, I have never personally drafted an enduring power of attorney, and hopefully it won't need to for a while. But here I've come up with what I believe would be a set of client requirements to be reflected in the document. And you can, again, read them there for yourself. There's about 15 of them. So I'm wondering, Justin, should I try and...
Should we dare it? Or do you want me to ask you a few questions, some of the questions that we kind of had, and then try it at the end in case
okay, far ahead,
everything collapses on us? It's just like if I have a case management system at the moment, how does this document assembly system kind of integrate?
Well, yeah, well, that's a good question, which we get asked quite often. With case management systems, those are process type systems where you're managing a workflow, and in most cases, you'll get to a step which says draft a document. What you would do is simply come out of your case management system and go onto a platform like Law Online and draft your document. All of our documents are downloadable in Word or PDF, which I would assume can be handled by just about every case management system out there. So while it's not directly integrated, you can pull a document from a platform, a document assembly platform in Word or PDF, and then insert it into your case management system and continue then.
Just talking again about this pre-population of documents, like I have a case management system and it already pre-populates the documents. What's different about this system? Where's the secret sauce or the artificial intelligence benefit?
Document assembly, as it is delivered via Law Online, for the sake of argument, goes into far more complex drafting of the document itself. So it's just an order of magnitude in terms of the level of automation. Document assembly is far more comprehensive, and there's far more optionality built into the process, so that you can, as opposed to pre-populating a limited number of client details, you can draft the entire document in a document assembly process. Which
may be different to other case management systems.
I'm only speaking from that.
We just obviously need to be careful. So how easy is it to adopt the technology into a practice or a small practice? Like, what would need to be done, or how easy is it to get going on it?
Well, it's cloud-based, so you simply subscribe, and as long as it takes for your payment method to be processed, that's as long as it takes to be up and running.
Okay, and there's any particular technology needs, or it's just all cloud-based and cloud-served?
Yeah, you simply buy a subscription, and that gives you access, in our case, to 180, 190 document processes. You into your folder and you see them all listed, and you simply hit the start button and you start drafting.
And if anyone else wants to ask us a question, well, here comes a question. Is the subscription user-based or firm-based? User-based or firm-based? So does the... Yeah,
it's well, it's a kind of an honor system. We have tiered pricing. I can't recall exactly the specifics now, but it's from 1 to 3 solicitors, something like 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 10, and 10 plus. And so for 1 to 3 solicitors, you can purchase the lowest subscription possible, which is 49 euros per month. So that gives you unlimited use across 3 solicitors. And if you've got more than that, the subscription goes up.
Sure, and we'll be sending out the slides later, which have your contact details if anyone needs to make contact with you directly. Just on editing of the documents, can I further edited them once they're drafted on the DA platform, or does that person who's further editing them need to be a subscriber?
No, no. I mean, well, basically, for example, with the crafted documents, as I referred to them earlier, we try to envisage every reasonable scenario that one might reasonably come across day to day in a solicitor's practice, but there will always be situations possibly that we haven't envisaged, and there are some customized clauses that you may want to add. So the documents are editable in Word outside of our platform, and I presume that would be the same for any similar platform. So yes, they can be edited by anybody afterwards.
And is that in a Microsoft Word format or a PDF format? Or
I'm
just thinking of people working remotely who may not be in the office.
Either. If we manage to get onto Law Online after this,
Yeah.
I'll hopefully be able to show you that the download button allows you the option of either Word or PDF.
Okay. So do you want to try and see whether you can demonstrate the actual product there? So I'll stop my share and hopefully.
Okay. I'm gonna do it.
And I suppose just while we're waiting there for Oliver, like next week, we have the LSRA are talking about limited liability partnerships. So if you'd like to register for that, we'll be sending out the details later, and we'll be sharing all of these slides and the recording on Friday with everybody.
Okay, well, look, it seems to be working so far, so I better I'll hang about.
So we're just coming up to 20 past, so you've got about five to 8 minutes.
All right. Okay. Well, look, this is the Law Online platform. As I said, this is the final. Just at the top first, you have the progress bar there, which says 100%. So this is, as all the best chef says, this is one that I prepared earlier. We're on the finish menu, and these are all the question groups that are involved in the drafting of this particular version of the enduring power of attorney. These bricks here, they're all in green. So green means that we've answered all of the questions. So for example, if I go back here to, and by the way, those green bricks correspond with each of the headings here. My cursor's jumping around a bit here. Okay, just click this one here. So for example, this is the details of the donor. So if I just delete that for a second and just click next, it turns to red. Well, first of all, I've been told that I have to answer that question before I can continue. But you can see that the brick has changed to the color red. So during the drafting process, you may not know the answer to certain questions. You might want to go off and research something. When you come back to the document, it's always clear what question groups have yet to be completed because they'll be in red. When you open the document first, all of those bricks will be colored gray. So when you look at them and don't complete the questions, they turn to red. When you look at them and complete the questions, they turn to green. Okay, so that's the way it basically works. And again, I won't spend too long on this. It'll be fairly obvious. So as you, sorry, that answers the question.
And just while I have you there, like how many documents do you have available on your system?
We have 100. I haven't done an exact count,
Sure. Yeah,
but in the region of 185.
Yeah, covering a variety of areas.
Yeah, the latest document that we're putting up is the oath of administrator, including bond, for an application for intestacy, which is a very complicated document. We've done a test version of it, and in fact, if there's anybody out there who would like to try it out for us, we'd be more than welcome to send them a link and let them try it. Again,
what document is that again?
It's oath of administrator, including bond, for an intestacy application. Again, we developed that document at the request of a solicitor who uses our platform based in up in Donegal, as it happens. And this solicitor just requested us to develop the document. She suggested that she would find it very useful. So we've done that, but again, it's a test version, and as I said, we would be, anybody who wishes to test it for us in anger, if you like, is welcome to contact us, and we'll give them a link to the document. It's not live on our platform yet. Obviously, we have to go through a rigorous testing process before we put these up. Here, sorry, I'm having trouble controlling.
So a bit of positive feedback there from from Jeremy. I've used the service and it's very user friendly, has a huge knowledge base underpinning the documents and guides. Well done, Oliver. So
Thanks, Jeremy. Jeremy's my brother.
okay, well.
Oh, I'm joking, obviously. Anyway, thanks,
Sure.
Jeremy. That's much appreciated. Okay, well, look, I'll just try and go very quickly through some of these. Again, here, these in terms of authority to. I'm having trouble controlling my cursor, but for example, if you change you can see the document changing there. Again, this is the type of optionality that I'm talking about. We ask you, what type of authority do you wish to give? Is it general? Is it specified in relation to all property matters, or is it specified in relation to specific, or is it personal care decisions only? So as you click the buttons, you can see the document moving around. It's not happening as fast as it normally would if I was on the platform itself, probably to do with our connection. Then you're talking about restrictions and do the attorneys act jointly or separately. This is an example of the kind of list that you can put in. So here, these are the various authorities that you can include in the document, and there's no limit to how many you include. Then the next is the list of the bank accounts, the property or whatever that the authorities relate to. And again, the list is unlimited. Then these are the restrictions and conditions that you may want to include. If you answered yes to restrictions, we would then present you with this opportunity to add in the restrictions.
So Oliver, we're sort of coming up to the end. You can keep going there, but I just wanted to kind of like, if talking to the solicitors out there, like there's a whole range of precedents here effectively. So it would allow people to move into different business areas potentially and have at their available to them a real treasure trove of resources to do this.
Well, yes. Well, I mean, like, for example, I'm not a solicitor. I know nothing about EPAs. Well, I know a certain amount, obviously,
sure,
as part of our business. But I mean, I have drafted an EPA here as an example.
Yeah.
Now,
are there other areas that people could easily kind of enter, like debt collection or?
Yeah, debt collection would be another example. I mean, for example, in the district court, a judgment set comprises 4 documents: the claim notice, the statutory declaration of service, the affidavit of debt, and the judgment document itself. All of those can be drafted on Law Online and could be done by, as I said, people who don't have a huge amount of experience in debt recovery. Obviously, you need more than that to offer a service.
Sure.
But the actual, I don't want to minimize it, but by any means, but the actual drafting of the documents, that is all taken care of, as long as you've got the appropriate details to respond to the questions that we ask you. So the fact that I was able to draft this EPA and make a reasonable fist of it, it may not be exactly as you might, send it out in final format, but I think I've made a reasonable fist of drafting it, and I know nothing about EPAs.
Sure. And this system is all of it's reviewed by solicitors themselves, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's not client facing. This is for the internal use of solicitors within their practice. Now, we do make this available to the public for the simple reason that we just couldn't survive on the rate of adoption of the technology by the legal profession. That we just wouldn't exist.
Yeah, but it hasn't been generated by yourself. It's been generated by other solicitors in conjunction with other solicitors.
All of the content has been generated either from statutory instruments. In this case, the format of an EPA is, as far as I know, attached or is an appendix to the statutory instrument that deals with powers of attorney. So that describes what's in this document. In the case of crafted content, yes, they've all been drafted by lawyers or solicitors who specialize in that particular area.
And just in conclusion, we're just coming up to the end now. But what do you think is its main sort of, in summary, 2 or 3 key features or key benefits as to why you'd want to use this type of artificial intelligent document assembly service?
Well, that's on probably my final slide. Could we?
Okay. Well. Okay. Let's see whether I can pull up my screen because that actually suits me. That's correct. Is that your last screen? Is that it there?
Yeah. Yeah. No, sorry, the next one, please, Justin.
Gremlins seem to have got into our system today. There we go.
Okay, well, so yeah, so just very briefly, it's a productivity tool. It means, you know, more speed in drafting documents, and that can only be margin enhancing for the practice. It's an expert system in the sense that, you know, if a client comes in and asks you to draft a document which you may not have drafted previously for quite a while, and rather than having to research the area again and familiarize yourself with the legislation or what have you, you have a system there that will allow you to draft the document simply by answering the questions. So there's a reduced risk of error. I suppose it's like having another partner in the platform, in the practice, who's got an expertise in areas of law that you may not have expertise in. It's cloud-based, as I said. You could adopt it in the next 5 minutes if you wish. It's downloadable in Word or PDF, so the documents can be edited further and should be easy to integrate into whatever case management system you have in your platform.